Morning, everybody. It's Sunday morning, so I'm gonna do the live upload or update. I wasn't gonna talk now because I'm gonna teach in a little while. I'm gonna teach the verses from the Catholic Mass, and the bishop will be on the radio in about 7 minutes, and then I'll listen to the Mass. But I looked at the verses, and I'll just do like an update and link this to a teaching post coming up. A few comments. I think the death toll is like 50 by now from Texas. I want to talk about a local case by a man by the name of Abraham Quintanilla. And for those who watch local news, it's maybe not such a big case. But I read the paper and the corpus caller is back in service. I was going to do it last night, but Abraham Quintanilla is the brother of the slain Tejano star Selena, which was a very wonderful girl from our area. You know the story, most of you, who was killed by Yolanda Saldivar here in Corpus Christi. Very sad case. But Abraham Quintanilla was before Judge Missy Medary, a white lady. Judge Missy Medary. Again, from that courthouse is right there. I'm right off of the bluff here. So, this case came up a few weeks ago. Then, if I remember, I'll mention the veteran that was killed on the night of the hurricane. Naked. PTSD. So anyway, Abraham Quintanilla was before Judge Missy Medary's court because of back child support that he owes. And the day they went to court, 2 weeks ago or so, they made an agreement with his ex-wife, and they were all in court, and rightfully you should pay child support. But I guess he was behind a lot of Texas is tough on it, which is fine. If you have a child, you should support that child. But the ex-wife, the mother of the child that he owes child support, she agreed, okay, we came to an agreement. He's going to make so many payments. But Judge Medary, a white lady who is she's out of her authority. Because the scripture says, suffer not a woman to usurp authority over a man. And it is my belief, in your case, my dear, that you are in rebellion because of what you did on such a simple case. And there are others that are much worse. But what she did that day was, and they put the statement in the paper, even though both sides, the plaintiff and the defense, their lawyers came to an agreement, Abraham Quintanilla is going to, fulfill, they came to an agreement. But yet the judge said, I can't make you love your son. I can't make you care for your son. And then she said, but what I can do is I can put you in jail and hold you responsible. Though, at that moment in the court, there was nothing broken by the law. There was an agreement made by both sides, and she put him in jail. She made it. And then the article yesterday was they appealed it to a higher court, and the higher court said she jailed him illegally, Missy. That because he was in compliance with all of the other things that he was supposed to do, he had some community service that he was in compliance with. The court said, no, you held him illegally. I consider when you do those types of things, especially when you're out of your God-ordained position, that you have not learned lessons. You know, that one city that I don't like being in this mode, and I worshiped for 2 hours. One of the verses we're going to teach today is from the Catholic Mass. It's from the book of Jeremiah. Jeremiah says, I have been speaking judgment and violence, God, and then I was going to keep my mouth shut. And then Jeremiah says, but you have deceived me. And it wasn't a prophecy, Jeremiah. It's a famous verse from the book of Jeremiah. You, Lord, have tricked me. And what he's talking about is he took this calling on him, and then he said he decided to get out of it. And he said, but then the word of the Lord was in him like a fire in his bones. So what he's talking about was, now I'm in this calling that Jeremiah was fulfilling, and he says, and I can't get out. That's what he's talking about. I'll teach you in a little while at my daughter's house. So, one of the cities that was so arrogant, when the DA actually said, all of these are called Rockport, Port Aransas, and Aransas Pass, all those cities I was walking. And I went off on them a few weeks ago because of the arrogance. The DA of Aransas Pass, those cities right there, out of Rockport actually is the center of the county seat. But they said, we can't take any more criminal cases by the Rockport police because of a certain case. But there was arrogance in that, with that mayor and that department. And one of those cities that's involved in all of that, Port Aransas, they shut all the schools indefinitely. And it's very possible that that city will never get back to being a city like it was before. They're moving they're not going to say we're opening our schools in 2 weeks or a month. They just told all the kids in that school district, you're going to have to enroll in one of the other towns. And of course, many people will leave permanently. Others will try and rebuild. But that's exactly what the word of the Lord was. Some of your cities, as human cities, will be done. Now, the naked Iraq war veteran who was murdered the night of the hurricane, him and his wife, I think he did 3 tours in Iraq. I read this too, in the Caller Times. And they moved to Corpus Christi not too long ago. And he wanted to become a cop. And he had the background and all, but he suffered from PTSD. And the night of the hurricane, he just left wherever they were. And then he was found naked downtown Corpus Christi. And he was shot. Okay? Now the wife has to be started speaking out and saying, because it was the hurricane now. And the story said, well, it looked like he might have been banging on someone's door. And the wife said he was asking for help. Now, the DA, Mark Gonzalez, said, we're looking at it. We're seeing if he was shot, like in the yard before, whether it was justified or unjustified. So, yes, those are the cases you look at. You don't make names for yourselves by a stupid child support thing, saying we're going to show you how tough on crime we are. You find out if an Iraq veteran was murdered. That's what you find out. There's a lot of criticism. I talked to a liberal friend recently. Oh, hates Trump with a passion. Hates Trump. And I said, well, I don't really want to defend Trump, nor do I really want to defend Joel Osteen. I'll mention that in a second. But I managed to say, well, as you know, I've not been a strong supporter of Trump, and this liberal friend believes he's the most racist person in the history of the world. And I posted the case on the website. I said, when Trump opened up his golf course, and those of you that read it, I posted it, I said, he was the first to open up that Mar-a-Lago in Florida. He's the first that wanted to allow black people in. And the other golf courses didn't want that. I said, and then he had to take him to court. He sued that county out of Florida. And he sent the movie, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, with Sidney Poitier and Spencer Tracy, I believe. Maybe Katharine Hepburn was in it too. She was in a lot of movies with Spencer Tracy. But the movie was a coming of age, it was an important movie at the time, showing interracial marriage and black and white people loving each other, which is great. And it was like a message. And my liberal friend who hates Trump said, oh, that's sort of how Trump is. He's spiteful, like he sent that movie to say, look, you need to get on with the times and not be so racist. And my liberal friend said, why doesn't the news report that? I said, well, I've read it on some articles. I said, that's where I got it from. I said, but you'll never see that on MSNBC or anything. And the person was, but why? Why don't I? Because everyone has a narrative. Now, Joel Osteen, I'm not a defender of Joel Osteen, and I'm not a defender of the prosperity gospel. I've written a book refuting it called House of Prayer, Den of Thieves on my various websites. But some people recently, I went to the park yesterday, Brother Dave, I'm going to teach on the verses that Brother Dave Waters of New Christian Harvest read the chapter yesterday with my friends, street friends. But a few people have said, can you believe that Joel Osteen, and many of the criticisms were, look at all the money he makes, he's got this expensive house. And I actually brought up to some people, I said, well, I'm not a defender of Joel Osteen. I said, but he doesn't take a salary from his church. I said, he primarily made a lot of money through his books and his own personal investments. I said, so there are others who are more extravagant, more of the prosperity message, that take money from people and support themselves. I said, so to defend Joel, I said, he doesn't do that, though I'm not a supporter of Joel Osteen in the sense of my teaching. And then it came up again. Some other people brought it up at the park, and one of my other friends mentioned this, what I just said. So it's so easy to jump on the bandwagon, okay? This is after the storm, but there's still a lot of problems in Houston, obviously most of you know of. I believe when priorities are correct. I saw my friend Don yesterday at the park, and he's still preparing because the city of Corpus Christi and the Corpus Christi Police Department served a warrant on Don and searched his residence, and the justification for that particular warrant was somebody said they saw somebody throw something in the water. Could have been like getting a fish, because he fishes off of his pier. And that was enough for this city to go and search his residence with a warrant. And I've shared this before the storm. And Don's pier is right off the water. It's a miracle. His pier is not that high, and it's right off the water, and he had no damage to it in other places. But yet, what is he fighting? He's fighting legally the city of Corpus Christi, who are trying to make him tear his pier down. You have people with homes ravished. They're applying to FEMA because they're homeless. And the city has a priority to be going after my friend Don, whose pier survived, which is his home. Lives on that little shack on the pier. And you're still find all of your energy to go. There was a man that threw out a little fire, a little barbecue pit, an older Hispanic man. The same type of person that Missy Metairie said, I will exert authority over you, Mr. Mexican Quintanilla, though the High Court said I was unjust in what I did. There's a scripture in Proverbs. It's quite graphic, but it talks about the harlot, the prostitute. It says she does a particular action with her mouth, and then she says, I had done no wrong. People have brought that up. In society, when you think because of your feminine gender, you can do a certain thing that is illegal and wrong, but because women have to back up women and you step out of your role and authority, it's just as disgraceful as that verse I just gave you. So they go after the man. This was a few months ago. An elderly Hispanic man in Corpus Christi, Texas. He put a barbecue pit out in front of his house, small pit. He wrote a letter to the editor on it. And the city went and slapped one of those fines on him. The fine that says, this is code enforcement. And if you don't correct it within 10 days, we put a lien on your house. What a disgrace. He paid the fine. It was $250. He put it out too early before they could come pick it up. And he said, I paid the fine. He wrote an article. He says, I'm on fixed income. My wife told me not to pay it. He says, but I was under pressure from the Corpus Christi Police Department, which is code enforcement, that they might put a lien on my property. And you have people struggling, homeless, and you do that stuff. What a disgrace. I had a friend, and the name finally came up recently. His name was Chris. He used to be a welder. Chris had long nails. Chris told us many years ago that a cop wanted to buy his house. Some house, I guess, here. This was recounted many years ago. And Chris said that that officer arrested him for whatever reason. I can't verify though, but I heard this multiple times. And when he was in jail, waiting, they finally dropped the case, whatever, that same cop bought his house. It went into foreclosure. It's not the first time I've heard that. You want people to come to Corpus Christi, and you have people that have mortgages paid off. They're not behind on taxes, and they're losing their homes because of some type of a code enforcement violation which triggers a complete search warrant for your residence. But Iraq veterans get murdered on the streets of Corpus Christi. Meth houses so rampant. I can't tell you how many there are here. Open crime, but yet you're going after people that are in their residences. People are homeless now. And my friend Don, he's still fighting. Yesterday, the courts are back in action. They're still fighting him to tear down the one pier that survived miraculously the storm. Right off the water, right off the intercoastal where I made a video. The city itself has deep problems structurally within it. There was looting. Even one of my friends, another one of his friends works at Baskin Robbins here in town, and they went in when the power was out and robbed. So there was robberies that went on. And when the chief said, we've had not a single report of looting, I think what he means is people that called in and said, look, somebody entered my house, the power's out, I'm not there. I think he means if they don't say, quote, somebody is looting, they write that down as it was just a robbery or a theft. But if it took place because the power was out, there are still people without power. I did not know that. My power has been on since Tuesday. There are people in Corpus Christi still without power. I'll give this one big comment. I was out on my motorcycle yesterday, and there are some streetlights that are out. I have never seen a city where people on the road have been more no horns beeping. Everybody stops at the red light. There was one bad instance that happened off of Rodfield, but I think the lady made a mistake. Everybody is, where the lights are out, the traffic lights, everybody is stopping, and then the next person, the lights are out, they're treating it like a stop sign, but nobody seems to be beeping their horn or rushing. I was on my motorcycle yesterday, and there's 4 lanes, two, I'm making a left, and all the cars wave me like that because I'm on my motorcycle. Look, I didn't need special treatment. So I'll tell you, the citizens on the roads with streetlights out, a lot of traffic on some of these intersections, they're all stopping, letting the next vehicle go. But there was one lady on Rodfield. I went and fueled up at a corner store, is the name of it, on Rodfield Road. And the side street that cuts across, I forget if it's Slough or when it was, a lady, there was vehicles on the red light, but it was out, so it's like a stop sign. But I think it was a lady came down Rodfield and just went straight through, not realizing because she doesn't see a red light. And of course, I guess she just didn't realize. And the one truck beeped. He waited, but it would have been his turn to go. For the most part, they've done superb in everyone taking their turn where the lights are still out. So this would just be the little update. Those cases I wanted to speak on. And it was last night when I read that they appealed the Abraham Quintanilla, and the higher court said it was unjust for Missy Medary. It's unjust when a cop puts a Xanax on a person. Says, I'm going to teach you how we can hold you, kidnap you, because we have the power to do that. within Corpus Christi. It's unjust when a civilian gets his ass kicked by an officer, and the supervisors of that department say, we can't stop it unless you're willing to press charges. And they say, no, we'll get our asses kicked again if we... That's an unjust thing. That's an unjust thing. Okay? We'll end with that.